Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Veil, a show that talks about all things wedding. My name is Marcy Guttenberg. Today I'm your host while Keith Willard is out just getting back from his trip after a very, very lengthy flight we will probably hear about next week. So I just wanted to say hello, and I am excited for today's show. We have, first I'm going to bring on my co-partner, co-host, Brooke Logan Stoner. And hi, Brooke. How are you today?
Marcy. I'm great. How are you?
Great to see you. Great to see you. We have a great show today. I'm really excited. It's going to be the ups and downs of life as a creative entrepreneur. So we have Brandee Gaar. Brandee is the go-to business coach and resource for wedding professionals and creative business owners who want to transform their small business into an expensive hobby into more of a thriving career. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on Brandee Gaar. Hi, Brandee.
Hey, guys.
Hi,
Good.
Brandee. Welcome.
Hey, Brooke. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yes. I want to kind of pop you over here, and I just wanted to introduce everybody. I wanted to find out from you, first of all, how did you get into you're a coach for the entrepreneur world. How did you get into this field?
Into coaching, yes. Educating. So I actually have been a wedding planner in Orlando for 15 years. I've owned my own company. And before that, I was a corporate event planner for the Gaylord Palms. And, it's just been such an exciting ride, really. And I, thinking back over my career, I really started thinking, I wish that there were more resources for the middlepreneur. I call it the middlepreneur, which is the entrepreneur that has, they've already figured out how to start their business. They've actually got great sales coming in. They're starting to build a team. But then how do you go from everything rides on you? And now, in addition to having clients, you have all these employees asking you questions, and you almost feel like if you just close your eyes even for a second, like all the wheels are going to fall off, and then how do you get from there to, okay, wait a second, like I can actually step away from my business. I can take vacation. I could sell my business. Like I'm actually creating something sellable that has a system and a process, and I'm not involved in the daily. And, that was the hardest part of building my business for me, because there isn't education out there for the middlepreneurs. There's so much education for how to start a wedding business or a creative business. And then once you're established and you've kind of made it, then there's all these conferences for them, but there's nowhere in the middle. And I struggled. Like, it was a very difficult process for me. I felt like we were never going to kind of get over the hump. And once we did, it's just so different. Like, life is so different. I enjoy my business. And so I just decided to start kind of teaching that. I was like, I had to find some mentors that would help me and walk through it with me. And so I was like, I'm going to create education for the middle, for these entrepreneurs who are incredible at what they do, but need to understand how to process that out and build it out. And so, so that's how I kind of got into it. And I'm extremely passionate about middlepreneurs. I love it.
I'm very fortunate because I do see your blogs. You put out a blog all the time, and I'm a big follower.
Thank you.
I think you've done a great job at focusing on something that you don't see very often. So like you said, it's really about streamlining not just the processes, but also understanding how to make things attainable to, as you said, maybe sell or other avenues that are going to heighten your business.
Yeah. I mean, there's a statistic out there that says 80% of small businesses fail. And it's not necessarily that they fail, meaning like they couldn't make it. It's more that there's no exit strategy. And so at the end, when the entrepreneur gets burned out and is like, I can't do this for the rest of my life, they just kind of close it because there's nothing built to exit, right? And that exit doesn't have to be a sale. It could be lots of different things. But there's only so many years that you can burn the candle at both ends before you just completely go, why did I leave my 9 to 5? Right? Like, I don't understand. Because a 9 to 5, we leave our 9 to 5 thinking, I did it, right? You leave thinking, I'm going to be the boss and I'm going to say when I work and I'm going to make the rules. Except that's not what you do. Like, you now are owned by your business. You work 24/7. You don't pay yourself a lot of the time, or you pay yourself something so measly. You have no vacation time. And I just was like, that is not what I left a great paying job for. Like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
And so I kept thinking there has to be a way to figure it out. And so I did. It took me 3 years to figure it out. And so now, yeah, I'm super passionate about teaching, especially wedding industry entrepreneurs. It's like, we wear this overwhelm as a badge of honor, like, oh, well, I'm the most stressed out person. I must be the busiest and most successful. And it's like, no, you just don't know how to run your business in a way that's streamlined, right?
Right.
There's a list. Like,
right. Right. And I think there's also, one of the things I talk about a lot in my courses and coaching is there's a mindset factor to it, because there definitely, when you go from being overwhelmed and stressed out all the time to having some white space on your calendar, or you're off on a Saturday, but you have 5 weddings and you're not working any of them, like, there's a guilt factor where you're like, but if I'm not overwhelmed, I should only be giving my team what I can't take. And that's not true, because once you build a team, you now have to become a coach to them and a mentor to them. And you have to be thinking about how to create new revenue sources to bring new business in, to keep everyone hired, to keep everyone with a paycheck. And so you have to be okay with them handling the day-to-day so that you can start to have this space to allow yourself creativity and thought, And so if you're overwhelmed, you can't do that. So there's a guilt factor there too. And I think that plays a larger part than people think it does.
Because when you free up your time and you're freeing up your mind, that's when your creative juices start flowing. It is funny, though. I did meet a young woman yesterday who is a master's student. She went to school for pre-med originally for her undergrad. And she was taking a course in hospitality industry and event planning. And she said the reason why she wanted to possibly get into this field was she felt that it was going to be a lot less hours than a doctor.
You're like, no.
And as we all know, that is not the case.
No, actually, my husband's father and brother are both doctors. And
funny.
I laugh at family dinners. The number of stories we can exchange that are so similar. Like, except they're actually dealing with life and death, and we're not. Yet people act like that, right?
Right.
And so it's so funny to me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, our jobs are so similar.
It is.
I have my master's and good luck.
That's right.
Very that.
That's too funny.
That's right. Exactly. So
as far as when we have our own businesses, I think that one thing that people don't realize, especially I think during the pandemic, we can talk about it, is that you do, some people are not accustomed to working alone in an office, their own office, as opposed to working with other people in an office. And some people may encounter like a loneliness factor, or not know how to time manage properly and so forth. What kind of things would you say to people who are in that realm where they just don't know like how to get through things, on like a day-to-day?
I mean, that's so true, Marcy. Exactly what you just said. You go from an office environment, where you've got IT people and you've got HR and an assistant sometimes, to
or the
working
chef
by
in
yourself.
Your face.
Yes. I mean, and you're like, I never want to talk to the chef again. But some days now, when you're lonely, you're like, I'd do anything to talk to someone. I think
someone please call me.
That's right.
I'm
That's
so
right.
lonely.
And I think there's a couple factors to it. I would say one is, now more than ever, there's so much opportunity to be connected. And I get that the virtual world is still virtual, but being connected to other people that are building a business similar to you, I can't even put a value on that. We have the Wedding Pro CEO community, our Facebook group, where we have just CEOs that are like, they're all building this dream where, I want people to be able to come in there and vent or get advice, or, because it is lonely, and you don't know who to turn to. And my spouse is incredible incredibly supportive, like incredibly supportive. I would not be anything without him. But there's still times where I feel like I just want to talk to another business owner that's going through the muck that I am,
Someone
and I
that
just
gets it. Yeah.
yes, and be like,
Yes.
what do I do? What's your thought? And so having people that are building a similar business, a wedding industry business, an event industry business, or creative, there's so much value in that, and being transparent and offering your own advice too. Like a lot of times when you teach, you even learn more, and you start to think, wait, I actually do know what I'm talking about. You don't feel so down on yourself sometimes, right? So being able to help somebody who you might only be one step ahead of, but you're one step ahead. And so being able to offer advice and also take advice in groups like that. I also think local networking groups are so, so important. Not just to sit in your house. We all work from home practically now, right?
Right.
So, so, I think it's really, really important to make sure that you're giving yourself those opportunities to build community, whether it be virtually or in person. I think both are equally important, to be honest.
Right. I know that I went through a lot of education and things like that, especially when, we didn't have clients that were having events, because I didn't want to just sit around. I needed to do something with my time. Otherwise, So I just kind of threw myself into the virtual world of learning and getting as much education as I could while the time afforded me, that opportunity.
Yeah.
But, now that things are coming back, and obviously in Florida, we're really lucky because we have had some great, great times.
We didn't have much
this
downtime.
year. No, no, not like up north. They're still dealing with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But some people are still in the mindset of, how do they get through it? And I think this kind of speaks to the people who aren't maybe not in our areas, but maybe towards the point of other areas where they are still dealing with the influx or the lack of influx of monetary,
business.
Monetary remunerations coming in to offset their expenses.
Sure.
What would you say to that area as far as what is there something that they can do to offset? Is there something they can do because it's such a long period of time without getting out of the industry completely?
Right. I know. I think, if the pandemic taught us anything, it's the importance of financial planning, right? My husband and I have even learned so much from it. We're both full-time for our business. Our business is the only income that comes into our home. So it's very, very scary when a pandemic hits, right?
Yes.
And we were very blessed to be able to not be closed for an exorbitant amount of time in Florida, but it still hit during busy season and it killed the whole fall as well. So I totally get that. I think it's, especially if you don't have a lot of funds that can be going out towards paid education, I think there's so many incredible free groups out there that you can join and get, yes, I do think the education is different in a free group versus a paid group, right? It should be, but it's still such great community. It's still education that you can be gleaning, that you can, even be just getting support too. So I think there's lots of free opportunities out there to be part of different networking groups that can help you to keep your mindset. And sometimes you may have to look at supplementing through another means, right? I definitely think that the pandemic, it made you decide whether you really wanted to have your business or not, right? How hard are you going to work to keep your business? Yeah.
Right. And in the meantime, maybe, the big buzzword was a side hustle, some people were dealing with a side hustle to get those funds coming in to offset.
Yeah.
I think that, I've seen in your repertoire, you talk about the 6-figure business, and obviously, maybe that might not be the fit right now.
Yeah.
But if you plan ahead and you start thinking about it now, when the time is right, you're going to be at that level and it will be the right for you. Yeah,
I 100% agree. And it's funny because I do have a course called the 6-Figure Roadmap, and I struggled really a lot with our, my team that was helping me to kind of build that program. And they were like, 6 figures. It's it's the thing that catches. And I'm like, I don't care if you make $50,000 a year, if you're happy, or if you make $1 million a year. I do think it's a catchy title, right? But it really, the thought behind that program is helping you to just know your numbers and create a path, whatever that path is. So, I think, so my husband, when he first started working with us, which was 10 years ago this year, he said, well, how do we know how much each of our services costs us? And I was like, well, we're wedding planners. Like, there's no cost. Just like my nemesis when people say that to me now, right? But I remember when he asked me, and I was a little frustrated because I was like, listen, I've run this business for 5 years without you, kind of a thing. Like, don't start asking me questions. But it was very poignant because he was like, well, but how do we know how much we actually make on it? There has to be your time, and how many can we do in a year? And I was like, I don't know. All the bills are paid. Let's stop talking about it. So, but when he kind of would gently push me over the years, I think there was times where I would be like, it is important for us to understand, because especially in Florida, and a lot of states are like this, we have a very busy spring and a very busy fall, and summer's dead. Like, no one wants to get married in Florida in the summer.
And I don't want them to. It's extremely hot out.
Me too. Where are you, Brooke?
I am in Florida.
You are?
I am in Fort Lauderdale. Inside, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm in Orlando.
Thank you, Keith. He forgot to bring me on the cruise. Is what happened?
Exactly.
Oh God. Well, so that's what, it's so hot here. It's miserable. We don't want to work. They don't want to get married. So, we were going through these seasons where it was like we had all this money in the bank account, and then you're like living the high life, and then we'd be eating ramen in the summer, and we're like, how do we keep the lights on? And he was just like, this isn't realistic way to run a business, so he was really the one that kind of pushed me to figure that out. Well, once I started putting pen to paper and working with our accountant to figure out, okay, well, how do you value your time? Like, what is involved in a service-based business? Because you think you don't have a lot of overhead. That's also how you then don't count yourself for a salary. You don't pay yourself, you discredit your time. And to be honest, time is the only thing we can't get back, right? That's kind of a buzz thing right now, right? Time is your currency. But it's so true. Like, you can always make more money, but you can't get back more time. And so the fact that we don't value it as an overhead expense for our business is mind-blowing, but I did it too. So really that whole premise is, I work through how to know exactly how much it costs you to run one of your packages, each of your packages. And what's funny to me is 9 times out of 10, when I'm working with students on it, they don't realize that they're actually making less on their most expensive package than they do on their most basic package.
Right.
Because
True.
They think, oh, I'm making $6,000 from my top package. But once we break it all down, I'm like, you're actually making less than what you would make on your basic package because you have so much expense and time that goes into it. And so helping them to realize how to value their time, how to bill out their packages so that they make the same amount on every single package, how to understand their overhead, and then how to bring on a team member. So, and really the reason we ended up with the 6-figure term was because right around that 80 to 100,000 is where you can start bringing on that first team member. You almost need to scale at that point. Up until that 60, 70 mark, you could probably run your business as a solo. But once you kind of go over that and you're nearing that $100,000 mark, you've got to change your mindset. You've got to understand how much it costs you to have a person. Can you afford a person? And then from there, you start to scale. So that's kind of how we came up with the name. But yeah.
Right. When you're up in Winter Park, Winter Garden area, which is Central Florida. Yeah. And you talked about, the different seasons and everything. And I know that Orlando, it gets a lot rainier there in the summertime than even down here.
Yes, every single day.
So like, this is the time that you're leaning up to the fall. You're like getting all your ducks in a row, and everything is kind of in that realm. What are you looking forward to doing this summer? What's your most? Do you have a project that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so it's funny because we really do break our year into 3 parts in my company. And so, fall is our very busiest season. October and November is absolutely bananas here. And so we really put no projects then, and we're just 100% focused on weddings. So in the summer, in fall and spring, we're really kind of like writing down things we want to either update or projects we want to get done so that in the summer we can work on those. And at the very beginning of summer, Memorial Day-ish, our whole team will kind of start breaking up projects, and they'll be like, hey, this is something we need to get done by August 1st, So we're working on things like we're updating our entire training database for our new onboarding procedures, our social media teams, pre-writing, pre-scheduling blogs, which real weddings are going to be published, all those kind of things, getting at least titles and starting with content on them so they're not so slammed. Our sales manager is definitely working on like updating our packages and different things that we can include and making sure that we're still in the right price range for our market and things like that. So everybody has projects. Everybody on my team is also full-time. So even though they don't have as many weddings in the summer, and definitely not as many weddings in the summer, they do still have quite a bit of work. But one of the things that makes our company, I think, unique is that I could care less where they do that work from. So like you can work on a project from Tahiti. I don't really care as long as it gets done. Right. So, so our team has a lot of freedom in the summer, especially to kind of work from wherever. But we're still getting a lot done. So, and then for me, I work on our budget. I always do our budget in August for the following year. So I'll look at the first 2 quarters and see how we're pacing to make sure, we're still pacing either on or ahead of schedule. I do our entire budget, raises, all that kind of stuff I'm looking at in August. We finalize it in September. That way in December, when I'm fried from weddings and chaos and we're all exhausted, I'm not trying to create it. I already have it, and I can just see how we paced for the end of the year and just do any tweaks or updates. Right. So I'm pretty passionate about people doing their budget in the third quarter. I think they should do their budget in the third quarter.
You know what? I think because, and you're probably the same in the same area as me, is that, coming from the corporate hotel world, so to speak, we're so used to doing it in the third quarter because that was the only time that you had. So.
Yes, and I think
so
it just makes sense in my head.
With it, and it makes sense. It does make sense.
Because if you're trying to rush through it at Christmas time, like you've got 1,000 things going on, even if it's not your busy season, it's just a busy season between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So
in your personal life, not just professional.
Right, you gotta
put up the tree,
wrap presents.
Right, there's so much going on. Right, so I think it's important. So that's what I focus on is, do we need any new hires? I'm looking at kind of the business as a whole. And that way, when we go into busy season, we feel really good about where we are. And so, fall is crazy.
You were talking about doing your social media, like your captions and so forth. Yeah. How far out do you like to do? I mean, like, obviously, we all love to do like a year before, but is it realistic? Not always.
No.
But how far out do you really like to be when you're like making sure that things are on the book, so to speak?
Yeah. So we do our social media a month ahead, and that's like a non-negotiable. That's the least amount of time we're going to have social media done. But what we like to do, so the way I do social media and blogging is that we run all of our media around whatever the blog is that week. So, you're just kind of recreating content. So there's no reason to create 5 different pieces of content every week. You really just need one great piece of content to feed everything back to. So we know our blog topics months in advance. So for my company, we do 2 real weddings and 2 educational blogs every single month. So we put out a blog a week, right? So the 2 real weddings, we can know those really far out because we'll kind of look at our calendar and we'll say, okay, this is going to be a great wedding. We know it's going to be great. We love the photographer on it. They're super our style, and they always turn out photos pretty quick. So like, let's go ahead and plug that wedding in for 2 months after, if the wedding's August 1st, we're going to put it in for October, right? Because we know it's going to take at least that long to get photos. So that's kind of how we're looking at what the topics of the blogs are. Right now, we're trying to get it done through the end of the year. That's our ideal, is that we would have all the topics. So we would know which educational topics we're going to attack based on, of course, around Thanksgiving, we're going to talk about how to throw a Thanksgiving wedding or what details to add in if you're having a Christmas wedding, those kind of things. And then we put in our real weddings, just we know what couples they're going to be. And so that way we can start looking at things like, if we're doing an educational blog on, let's say, how to get the best alterations. Well, we need one of our alteration partners to help give us some tips on that, right? So we can, instead of reaching out to them and saying, hey, by the end of today, I need some information, we give them some time. So we'll say, hey, we'd love to feature you on our blog. We need some information for it. And so the hope is that by having those blogs done, at least the titles, and knowing what to-dos are coming from them, that gives us time to work on it. And then all of our social media content's done about a month out. So we don't actually write captions and pull images until, so like we do that. We would be working on now for June, we'd be working on August.
Okay.
So July's done, right? So
Yeah.
that's when we're pulling images, we're writing captions, we're getting everything scheduled out, because at this point we've got it.
Yeah.
We've kind of
I'm finishing my July right now.
Yeah, which is great.
I was
mean,
working on it earlier.
I mean, that's a month out, right? So that's perfect. And I think social media is so difficult because, one, we don't plan it, right? There's not a lot of strategy to it. And so you're just kind of like, I have to do it, so I just put something up. And really, in reality, I would rather see people not do anything than to have no strategy behind it, because it's time consuming. So the reason we run everything off our blog, and I call it anchor content, that's our anchor content, is because I want all of my social media to push back to that blog, because that gets them to my website. If I can get them to my website, they can see my packages, they can see my team, they can book a consult. So the idea is to constantly be pushing them there. So if it's an educational topic, I could make 5 or 6 posts off of that. I can make 2 reels off of it. I can pull different image posts, carousel posts. So we're constantly feeding back to that blog. Is kind of how we do our social media. And that's how I teach social media as well.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
They call it MVP, motivation, visibility, and promotion.
Yes, always, right? And so you're constantly like,
See, MVP stands for more vodka, please, for me. I don't know.
I like that one too.
That
As
was
long
good.
as it's raspberry flavored, I'm in.
Work.
Oh, raspberry. That sounds good.
Raspberry vodka and lemonade is my.
Especially in the summer in Florida, honey.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes. So good. So yeah, but I think it helps if you can think about it like that, and you've got this funnel driving them back to your blog. I think it's really, really helpful. And so like we teach social. I love social media, which is shocking because I 2 years ago hated social media, but I
Still hate
made it. It was
Still hate it.
my nemesis for sure, right?
This is been a struggle for me. I'm on that struggle bus.
You are. Okay. So during the pandemic, like you were saying, you're kind of like, what do I do with my time? Right. I was like, I'm going to figure this out, because I hated how much time we spent on it and it had no strategy. So I would get so annoyed. And so I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I just poured myself into learning all of it. Yes. And so as a business owner, what I love is now teaching other business owners, okay, don't learn from an influencer, because we don't have all day to sit on Instagram, right, and post and make reels and all these things. I want to take the tips that influencers are teaching, and as a business owner, think, how can I actually implement this into my business, and how does it work to create a strategy and a funnel for it? So I love teaching social media now. I love it, but I only teach it for service-based businesses. Like, I do not teach. If you have a product, I don't know. If you want to be an influencer, I don't know. But for creative service-based businesses, I'm like, I got you. Like, let's do this. So
Right.
I have a lot of fun with it.
Right. Brooke, do you have any questions so far? No.
I'm retaining knowledge, but it's common sense for me, because I play in this. I'm in the field, so everything she's saying is all stuff that I know that we do or Keith does. So I mean, it's all common sense to me, but it might not be to the average person.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I just think that we are, as you said before, we were talking about how we're so inundated right now with events, which is great, but it's also finding the right balance to deal with the clients that are the most pressing to the ones that are further away, without making them feel like they're not important, because every one of our clients is important to us.
Yes.
I mean,
100%.
and I don't, and honestly, I try not to take on more than I can handle, because I feel that I don't want to sacrifice somebody's event to offset my own personal gain. I think it's important to them. They came to us for, because we're their guide. They're looking for guidance. They're looking for the right people to help them make their event special. And so I think that's an important feature, that we're constantly reevaluating our time and our commitment to our clients. It's a definite balance.
Yeah, I think especially right now, because of the pandemic, it pushed so many weddings. And now clients aren't able to find dates. And so then they're booking further out, and then
or they're booking weekdays.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And so
and
you've
so
got clients that, yes, that's so many, and they're booking further out because now they're nervous that they're going to run out of vendors. And so they're booking. And so I think it's really just important to communicate expectations to your clients. If right up front you tell them, hey, as soon as we contract, we're going to do these 3 things, and then we're going to sit for a little bit, you're not going to have anything else to do. We're too far out, and kind of just making sure they understand. And this is what we're going to do first, and then we're going to sit, and then we're going to do these things, and then we're going to sit, so especially for planners, I think that that's really important. But even for DJs or photographers, it's hard because there's not a lot of interaction from the time they contract until maybe a month before the wedding, maybe 60 days. Right. And you don't want to have no relationship with your client. So maybe even sending them helpful tips throughout their process, or anything that can keep you kind of top of mind would be great. But I think just setting those expectations up front, you're going to contract, and then this is going to happen, and then this is going to happen, so they're not like, what am I doing? So,
oh my gosh, my person, my planner or my invitation person or whatever they are, they're not calling me back, or they're not checking in with me.
Right.
I would much rather make sure that they're being at least, as you said, top of mind is really important, because even though you're not, it's not like top of mind awareness where you're putting out an ad. You're just reminding them you're still there for them. You're important to me. I want to make sure,
thanks.
We're still here. Do you have questions? And that way, people can feel comfortable that, they are being handheld the whole way through, because that is ultimately why they hire us.
Right.
They're looking for that guidance.
Yeah. And I think when we don't set those clear expectations, that's when we get the people that can make us a little crazy, because they just don't know. So they keep asking you questions constantly, and you're like, get off my back. But really, if we just set those expectations ahead of time and say, we're done with phase 1 of your planning. It's going to be a couple months before we talk again. So we'll pick this back up in, August or whatever it is. I also think that helps to manage our schedule. If I know I'm going to be in busy season, October and November, I'm going to try my hardest to get them to a good stopping place in September. Be like, we're good until the first of the year. Here's some things you can be working on behind the scenes, but we don't have any meetings between those days.
Exactly. You'll hear from me at this point, but if you have questions in the meanwhile, my door is open.
Yes, 100%. But that way they don't think they're just getting forgotten about. So
I
think that's important, especially right now with people booking so far out.
Oh, yes. I mean, we're people are booked all the way to almost the beginning of 2024, which is
crazy.
To me crazy. We've never had that kind of lead time.
I've got job security for a couple of years, so.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It's crazy.
I mean, ramen until April or till August, but I'm good until 2023.
That's right. After August, I'm good. Yeah, and it is really crazy. And we usually wouldn't take clients that far out, but now, given how far people are just getting pushed because of venues, we're much more open to it. But we do set those expectations up front, like, hey, this is what's going to happen. So it's important.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And what about looking at the creativity side? What do you got? I mean, the both of you, this is for both of you.
Yeah.
Creativity versus your analytical side of the brain, so to speak. I mean, for people who are looking to just get into this business, what would either of you say to them in regards to either facet, right brain, left brain, right brain being your analytical side, your left brain is your creative side. Any thoughts as to getting into the industry now?
Yeah, Brooke, I can let you go first.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I can only speak from personal experience. I happen to have gifted with both of those wonderful qualities. And to me, they kind of go hand in hand, because I'm that girl that wants to know what's going on every 15 seconds. Hence my 6 pages of timelines I get now, because I complained one time at a wedding 3 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So, but that works for me. Some people can work in chaos. I cannot. I have to work in organization, and it's just like this simple thing, like make the bed before you go to work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You've accomplished something, and to me, so the reason I say this is because for me, I feel like I've accomplished something. I'm feeling great, and now my creative juices are flowing. So the creative side of me, I think, going to process things better, and the product's going to turn out better. And that's just for me. But I'm going to be 44 this year, and that's just the way I've been almost my whole life. So I'm not going to change that because it's working for me so far.
Right.
So,
which is important to know, right? What works for you.
Even work.
I love that you said make your bed.
And I'm not. You know?
Right. I mean, some days you just wake up and you're like, I'm not feeling it. You know, like it's just not going to happen today, no matter what you do. But I agree with you. I think, you know, for me, I really thrive in organization, and I feel like I can't be creative unless things are organized. And so sometimes even when I know I need to work on a big design proposal or something, I will take the 30 minutes to kind of walk through my house and like put stuff away, vacuum, you know, make sure everything, because I just can't think in chaos. So
I mean, in a mess. If the dishes are in the sink, I'm like, nope.
Me too. And so I think it's really important. I also really feel most energized when I first get up in the morning. So to Brooke's point, like I like to make sure my house is clean before I go to bed, because I don't want to wake up and waste creative time feeling like cleaning, right? I'd rather wake up all this energy ready to slay the day and spend 2 hours kind of like killing it and then take a pause. So I'm bad at the pause part. Like I just kind of wake up and go. But I think it's important to know what ticks for you. Some people say, you know, I'm most creative late at night. And I'm like, well, then great. Like shell that time out in your day, however that looks for you. But everybody's different. But knowing what it is important.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think for many of us, I mean, I can speak for myself, but I thrive under organization because I can't focus otherwise. It's like, there's too much clutter here means too much clutter here. Yeah. So I have to have everything. And it's funny, Brooke, you said about making your bed. And I remember when I was a little girl and my parents, especially my mother, would come and say, you have to make your bed. That's the only way to start your day. And I mean, that was just how we grew up back then. And nowadays I appreciate that because, you know, you learn by creating tasks and creating goals and setting yourself up for success. And if you don't have those in place, it's going to be very hard. And, you know, getting back to what we were talking about earlier on with starting a business and working from home and being by yourself, I think that we can all relate to the fact that if you don't have some kind of organization, your day is going to be all thrown off.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no room for like creativity.
I don't want that in my head. I mean, is the dishwasher going to flood because I turned it on before I left the house? Remember, you should have did that first. Like, that's just too much.
Yeah.
I'm too simple for that.
I agree with you, though. It's like, if you know what's going to trigger, I think this industry is very anxiety inducing as it is, right? So if you know something's going to trigger more anxiety that you can control it.
Oh yes.
Right.
Please be well equipped to handle high stress situations at all times. Put out fires because if you cannot, you are in the wrong business, darling.
No yes.
Kidding. No kidding.
Oh yes. I'm also the girl that I like to plan ahead. So like I have to plan ahead, and if something deviates, I can adapt as long as it's reasonable, obviously.
Sure.
But
proactive instead of reactive.
Proactivity works best for me. It doesn't always work best for everybody, but to me, I would much rather be working further ahead than working from behind. Yeah. Because when you're working from behind, you're always going to be behind. And all you're going to be doing is, I call it shoveling.
That's the worst feeling.
It is. And it just drags you down. And it's your energy that you have around you and what you're creating for yourself.
Yes.
And I think that being proactive puts you ahead of the game.
100%.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I agree. Yep.
And
look at the smart ladies on the panel today.
Yes, I'm loving it. This is so fun.
I have to tell you, I absolutely love your hair like this. It looks so beautiful.
I agree. Who are you talking to?
You.
Oh, thank you.
I love it.
What's that? Because I didn't wash it or curl it?
It just looks like naturally healthy and glowy and everything. Oh. It's very pretty.
You do look very glowy.
Well, thank you.
I love it.
Yes.
I didn't even put on setting spray or nothing. Well, keep the comments rolling. I mean, I'll stay a little longer. Well, thank you. That was very nice to hear.
Yeah.
For people that are, have been in the business for a long time, and maybe they're like, okay, I don't know if I want to stay in the business, or is this the right fit for me right now? I mean, how do people recognize the fact when it's time to get out? Because obviously I'm not at that point, but,
right.
There are people that like, like they're like, oh, well, I've been doing this my whole life. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
They
are
say,
you seeing a profit? Do you have to file bankruptcy? Those are going to be my first to go to. I'm just saying, do people like you? Do you have shitty reviews? There's just the top tier. We'll pick away, but that's just me.
No, I think that's a great point though, Brooke. Like, I think I do think you can feel it. I think I could be wrong about that, but barring the pandemic, you can't really judge based on what you felt in 2020, maybe even 2021, right? But
agree.
But I think now we're starting to get out of that. In most states, we're reopened, right? At this point, there's very few restrictions. So I think
stays that way.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. But I think, your heart has to be in it. And I think that goes for when you got in the industry and all the way through. When people come to shadow with us, it's always so funny because I'm like, you either love this industry or you hate it, because it's tough, right? It's a hard industry to be in. And I don't know that anybody, it's just hard. And so you have to love it so much that you can't imagine doing anything else, because there are days where you're just like, wow, we just feel terrible about, something you either did or a mistake maybe that you made, or just that it's just hard. And then there's days where you're like, I am amazing. Like, I'm the best wedding planner in the earth. And so I think it's important to check your heart constantly and say, like, do I still recognize that while this is a job for me, it's someone's most important wedding day, and they've entrusted that to you, whether that's as their DJ or as their photographer or their hair and makeup artist, whatever that is. They've chosen you out of the hundreds and hundreds of vendors they could have chosen. And I think it's just important to do a gut check and say, like, am I just doing this because it's a job, or am I passionate about it?
Very true.
I think to be successful in this business, it has to be more passion than anything. You can work 100%. The other tweaks out. You can learn things and adapt to such different situations. If your heart's not in it, you're not the one.
No,
and the thing is, too, is your client's gonna, unless you're like the greatest bullshitter on the planet, your client's gonna feel that energy anyway.
They are.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So one or two things just happen if you book that client.
Yeah.
I won't say any more.
And I think that that's really important to know. And that's why I think too, it's important to really design your business in a way that provides you an exit, whatever that exit looks like. It can be as simple as, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to switch industries, and you're going to slowly just stop taking clients. You're going to finish out the ones you have, and then you're going to do something else. That's fine. Selling it would be better, right? Being able to say, like, hey, I can sell this, or I can even, maybe you're literally just the business owner and your team is running it on a daily. So there's lots of different options, but I think feeling stuck is probably the worst option, right? Feeling like, but I
don't know how much of your heart can be in that in this industry as a wedding planner. To let your, me and Keith have a great dynamic. So but Keith's never going to be that guy. He's always going to be the one that picks up the phone. It's never going to be me.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't want it.
Yeah.
I'll follow up and be cute with it all, but he's going to be that initial person at all times. And that's just the way this is set up. Because he thought I was going to peace out after 6 to 8 months. And I'm like, oh, no, I didn't sign up for that. And here we are for 4 years. I'm like, oh, no, I'm real good with this. Yeah. I'll take another raise this November. I'll take another raise. Thank you. And I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, some people are really good at what they do, and me and Keith just go like this, and 99.9% of the time it's a hit, baby, and it's not a miss. So
I think that's great though, right? Knowing what you're really good at, and then what you need help with, like what you need to be balanced, because there's nothing worse than having to do something on a daily basis that you really don't love doing. And I think in the beginning of your business you kind of have to, right? But as you grow, it's like, if I can find somebody that can do this that I'm really not amazing at, or that I just don't like, if I can find somebody who can do that, then you become this powerhouse, right? Which is incredible.
And I think during the summertime, like if you are in a position where, like, let's say you have a company and you're a business owner that you cannot necessarily take on an employee financially, there is opportunities out there to find people to maybe do like internships, especially from colleges, that they're looking for places to work with people in the industry who are going to give them the best tools to take back with them for future, for their future. So this is an opportunity, especially over the summer months when, you may not necessarily be that busy, but you need like somebody to help you with the busy work for things to plan for down the road.
Sure.
And especially the young, people that are in school right now, they're like fantastic with social media. So if you need somebody for that, that alone is like gold.
Yeah. And I do think I'm glad you brought up interns, because I think one of the things that is really, really important, we did an episode about this on the podcast with Kristen Weaver, is understanding that the point of an intern being free is so that they trade for education, right? So I love the idea of having an intern come in for social media, but you have to know at least enough about it to teach them something. Yes. Otherwise, you're really just
working for free.
Right. Like you're kind of taking advantage.
It could backfire in the wedding planners. Not that it's happened. Me and Keith have had a few, Keith and I have had a few interns. One, which she was really good at social media. I was like, right before she, and I was like, here, fix my, because let's face it, Keith's like, girl, your Insta is shit. Like, you've got like 6 pictures, like, you with glasses and makeup on. We know you're pretty, we get it. Like, girl, you're shit. I'm like, well, we'll fix that later. It's not my thing. I'm not a big social media queen.
Yeah.
But for what? Because what I'm great at doing is sharing everything Keith and Marcy does. And I'm like, I don't have to do that yet. I should probably get it together, but I mean, I guess maybe I procrastinate on certain things.
That's okay.
So that is one of them.
Yeah, there you go.
In time, it just takes time to get to that point.
The more then you got to answer inboxes, and then there's that's the headache I don't want.
I mean, I get it. I totally do, because I did it for years. But I also think,
but when you own a business, you need to.
You do. You need to, and I also think, Wedding Wire put out a report saying 82% of engaged couples research their vendors on social media before they hire them. Like,
I would hope so.
Huge. And so, I think gone are the days of us being able to say that we just don't like it, because it's such an important piece of our business. But I also think the way to use an intern, if you don't know a lot about social media or you just don't want to do it, right, is to buy them a course. Like, okay, hey, and in trade for you working for me for 3 months, I will buy this, Instagram lab from Jenna Kutcher or whatever. And you take the course and I want you to learn it and I want you to kill it. You still own the course so that you can have it, but giving them that education, it might not be able to come from you, but then, hey, and social media is a really easy thing to keep somebody on super part-time for, right? Because they can do it while they're in school. They can do it from home. They don't necessarily need to come into an office. So it's a great thing to outsource to a student who wants to learn the industry.
Eating ramen for the next month, I could just not be lazy. I mean,
come on, Brooke. We're gonna get your Instagram together. I love teaching people.
I'm gonna have like the best Insta on the planet.
That's right.
No.
That's right. Oh, it really is more about just like, strategy to it, obviously, but you have to want to do it, and I didn't for 13 years. I mean. Yeah. I didn't. I just had other things I wanted to deal with. And the pandemic gave me time to say, no, I'm going to figure this out. And I still don't do it for my own business. Yeah. I will say I don't do it for Blush. I do my own social media, but for my coaching, but I don't do it for Blush. So, I just think my social media team does a phenomenal job. So why would I take it away from them? And they're great at it. But I do my own. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just
Brooke will work on hers. Maybe not.
Come on, Brooke. I'm gonna make sure. I'm gonna check back in with you and say, hey, Brooke, what's going on with your Instagram?
Yeah, I make a commitment. I attack it like 3 days a week. I take a course from somebody, and it helps me to stay in the loop as to because things are constantly changing, and you just kind of have to stay up with it. And like you said, I think I was in that same struggle bus where for so many years I just neglected to pay attention to it because I didn't want to. Right. But in this day and age, you have to. I mean, it's like, that's where people find you. They're not looking, like some businesses they'll look on Yelp and some businesses they'll look on Google and so forth. But I think ultimately they're looking on social media. They want to see your platforms.
And wedding industry, event industry, they're on Instagram and Pinterest. Like that's
Yes.
where they're finding us, right?
Because they're looking at the images and then they're
Right.
looking at the captions. But
correct.
the images are the most important part.
Yep.
So,
yep. And educating, making sure that you're the expert. You know, it's funny too, because when people say, well, what would I educate about? I'm like, oh my word. Like, think about all the things you say over and over and over to clients all the time.
All the
time. There's
time.
hundreds of things. And an Instagram post isn't meant to be the step-by-step in how to plan your wedding. It's a tidbit, right? It's a thing. Like, you know, alphabetize your escort cards. Don't put them in table number order, or, you know, the 5 images. Yeah. I mean, it's just a few things. So it makes you look like an expert, and you're answering the questions that people have that when they're planning their wedding. So, yeah.
I did
But
one
if you're
today
a smart girl like I was, you just make sure instead of handing out your business cards, you hand out your bosses. His socials are fabulous. So I am smart.
There you go. There you go.
I did one today on.
Because like, there's been so many times Keith's like ran out of cards, and I've got a stack of mine. Same freaking thing, just different names and a different title. Mine's really good though. I don't. It's real fancy. That sounds real important. Anyway, so then I'm like, oh, well, here's mine.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'll have to look at his. That's funny.
Too funny. Yeah, he's got a great card. But I did one today on the do's and don'ts of wedding invitations, because I was like, so many times people ask me the same questions over and over, and I figured, well, maybe this will kind of answer everybody's like at a quick snapshot, because it's the same questions. So
all the time. And then that gives you content to send them back to, right? So you can say, oh, I did a great Instagram post about this. I'm going to answer your question, but here, go back and look at this too, which is a great opportunity to help them see that you do know what you're talking about, right? And then you can use that same post, and now you can make a reel out of it, and then you can also make a blog out of it. So
I know I've done one reel.
Okay.
I haven't done more than that yet.
You know.
And Brooke's probably going, what's a reel, right?
No, I mean, I'm not that.
I'm going
but I'm
real.
I'm thinking I want to get on the TikTok thing, because I guess that's what the kids are doing. They're ticking and talking now. And I've seen some pretty cool stuff from like vendors of ours that have posted and tagged us, and I'm like, oh, I mean, I guess I should probably do that.
TikTok is like I call it the rabbit hole.
Right.
TikTok is the rabbit hole.
I mean, if I start that, I'm just gonna like probably like it, and then I'm just gonna be like, and then that's
you will.
You will,
and then you'll blow up. I think, you know, TikToks are, I do love TikTok. It's not where I focus a lot of my energy as a content creator, because reels are very, very similar, obviously. And we know our couples are on Instagram. We know they are, because that's just currently where they are. TikTok, I think a lot of them are there, but in less of a researching vendors, they're more just like, oh, this is funny. You know, this is fun. And so I focus a lot of effort on reels and teaching people how to make reels and make reels that have a strategy to them and things like that. So I love it. And short form video is so fun. Brooke, you would love getting into reels.
I'm kind of a dork, so I know I would.
Yes.
But it's like, am I going to be that girl again? Because I used to be that way back in the day.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, you know, I probably should.
You should.
I mean, watching them when you're unwinding for the day.
Something new.
People tell me all the time. They'll ask, you know, should I stop doing regular posts and just do reels? And I'm like,
oh God, if I could run our socials, Keith would love me. He'd probably give me an extra, like, never mind.
Yes.
A lot of
Do it. You would love it. I mean, reels are where it's at right now, and
Keith, call me when you get rested up, hon.
No, you got to do it. You got to do it. I'm telling you, it's really Instagram is just giving so much juice for reels right now. So hey, if you can have fun with it, teach people in 15-second videos.
I've got a lot of great ideas. I just procrastinate, and then he's like, "Well, you got a time limit."
Yeah.
And like, you know, and after that, if you don't do it, I'm just gonna steal it and use it for myself. And you've done it twice, so hey, listen, I'm good. I'm good.
There you go. All right.
But the
best
thing
brings me combos.
The best thing I think about like reels and even TikTok is that you can get a lot of content out in one or two, you know, not even a minute.
The TikTok.
Oh no,
I know it's the newest addition to our socials, but I can be completely 120% transparent with you ladies. I haven't even looked at it.
Yeah.
I don't even have a TikTok account yet.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, I think just focus on Instagram for now.
Yeah. Instagram is where it's at.
Yeah. He very politely told me before he left. He's like, by the way, girl, your Insta shit. I'm like, what is even on my Insta? He's like, I don't know. Madonna on you. I'm like, well, that's all it needs.
And Brooke, I know you. I know you. There are so many of those makeup tutorials out there, and you would kill it out there for that.
There's so many times, like, this was the original deal for this platform before, because we had the, Marcy, we had the camera crews behind us. The whole deal with this was, like, I was going to do a recap show of Behind the Veil when it was, like, supposed to be, like, Bridezilla's. And then COVID happened, and boom, here we are. So it's like, well, I can't do that now, really. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I could, but I'm like, it's kind of boring. It's not my, like, it's not my thing anymore.
Yeah.
It's our thing. So it's, yeah. But I mean, I do know this. I know when you get into that world, that is a dedication upload schedule you have to keep. It's a lot of work, and that is very time consuming. So I have to be able to know in my brain, like, okay, girl, if you do this, you have to commit to it. Yeah. And that's a lot of commitment.
It is. You know what? I will say this. I think it's commitment to consistency, but I don't think it takes a lot of time. I think it takes a system and consistency, which, Brooke, you already sound like you're that kind of a personality. Like,
I'm super good at shit.
First I do this, and then I do this, and every single morning I do this.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Sure.
It feels daunting now.
It's that hill I gotta climb though. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. I want to climb the hill without my shoes on in the snow.
Correct. Yes.
Because once you get there, then I'm sure it's cold.
It's easy, and I only teach people how to make 5-minute reels. Like, if it's gonna take you more than 5 minutes to make a reel, don't make that reel. Like, you don't have that much time as a business owner. So, I mean, there's the learning curve, obviously, but once you learn how to do it, you should be able to make a reel and post it with a great caption in 5 minutes or less. And because we just don't have time to be making all these reels with hour-long transitions. That doesn't make any sense. It's not a good return on your time. So, but, it's more about saying to yourself, I'm going to do it. I'm going to post 2 times a week, and I'm going to be consistent at it. Once you do that, it's actually not that much time. It's just the mental factor.
I mean, I'm also a clown and I like to do jokes, right? So it's like, is that really conducive for the business? Because this is pushing it as it is, right? Having me on the show. So it's like, I take that in consideration too. I'm like, I'm going to like that way too much. And then like, he's like, girl, take the talk down right now. So we'll see. Well, I'll wait for the phone call.
Yes,
the phone
exactly.
rings and he's like, listen, girl.
He'll watch this and be like, you're doing it.
If I'm told to, I will. If not, I'm going to put it off.
Okay, I hear that phone ringing right now.
I know. So funny.
I want to show your Instagram handle one more time here. It's at Brandee Gaar, Brandee, Gaar, Gaar.
Yes.
And
so many
blush weddings. Yes. And that way people can find you. And I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today, Brandee. You have been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you. This was fun.
Yes.
You are worth waking up for, darling.
Thank you, Brooke, for joining along today. I appreciate it.
I was on time again. What is going on in the world?
Hopefully next week Keith will be back with us. He had a very long flight. I think it was over 40 hours.
I missed him. I didn't actually talk to him.
He got a delay.
Twice. And
He got 2 delays.
Yeah.
And he got stuck up in Toronto, I think, is coming back from Italy. He got stuck in Toronto for
like a day.
Like a few hours.
Wow.
So,
yeah, it was super delayed.
Yeah, super delayed. But thank you so much, ladies. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Have a fantastic day, everybody. And we're going to say bye for now.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you.